Thank you. I mean, I know we've been off the air, reformatted, retooled, coming to everyone live now on Thursday evening, 7 Central, 8 Eastern. We're super excited. You know, I know a lot of people sometimes, Nick, tell you, oh, we got a lot of cards and emails, and we literally got texts, phone calls. Nick, you received a bunch of them. Triple T Radio, our owners in New York City, they received a bunch of calls about the new time slot and our Thursday time. It just seems to be a little bit more convenient for more people to listen to us. So I just want to let you know that we promised you that we were like your stockbrokers in the conspiracy world. You know, you spoke, we listened, we made a move. So we're tickled to death to be here on Thursday. My co-host, as always, the pilot of this crazy plane, Cueball Carmichael, unfortunately cannot be with us tonight. He is having reception problems in North Carolina. He's on the road too. But if he can join us, he will join us midstream, and we hopefully look forward to that. He will obviously be back next week with a really spectacular show covering the Alaskan Triangle. And I just wanted to tease that show, if I can, because it's really important.
Absolutely.
To Q. He has been researching the Alaska Triangle for many years, and he's well equipped to tell us the ins and outs and laid out his theory and philosophies on the whole thing. I also wanted to kind of wrap up our 6-part series on aliens and my afterthoughts. I think that is important. And Nick, have you chime in and give us your thoughts too. And tonight we were going to start tiptoeing into the deep woods of Bigfoot. And I am in pre-production right now for I guess you would call it, Nick. You've seen him on all of the Roku channels of documentaries where someone just sitting there, an expert, speaking for 45 to 50 minutes on a subject. I think they're really interesting and captivating. I've got a production crew now. We're going to fill in some B-roll. We're going to have some graphics. I really think that this is going to be really, really interesting for the viewers. We're going to have it on several Roku channels. The documentary is called Bigfoot Case Closed with Jon Stewart. And I'm going to do tonight. This is our test run. So you people can hear just the scientific facts about Bigfoot. Not my opinion so much, not the National Enquirer angle of it, but what scientifically is out there, evidence-wise, and what black and white is out there that is irrefutable. Because what Cueball and I and Nick, yourself, we talked about this in our production meeting a couple of days ago. The biggest thing with a show like this is breaking through someone's cognitive dissonance. And that is a very fancy word, and I hold a degree in counseling psychology, so I'm familiar with it. But really, cognitive dissonance is someone's view, and you have an opposing view, and it's crashing up against their view. And no matter how crazy, how implausible, how their theory or their view does not make any sense, there's no scientific data, but it's a hardcore belief system that is really hard to overcome. And most psychologists will tell you that. And you could come at somebody who, believes the sky is gray, and you could, bring them with charts and astrophysic data and meteorological data, and they'll still tell you, hey, look, the sky's gray, it's not blue. And but I hope that at one point in the start of this journey for myself of, this is very Nick, this is something that I'm sure my political friends and those that I've hired and have hired as analysts for my 4 political adventures, governor and twice for Congress and state rep, Kellyanne Conway, the president's chief counsel. I was her first political client in '97. So this is a little touchy for me to start going into this Bigfoot arena. But I think that if I bring about scientific information that is not really out there, that isn't made for whatever reason, I've talked to many producers about this, is not made really, it's not a big deal with a lot of these documentaries on Bigfoot. And I don't understand. They pick a couple, but nobody puts it over the goal line. And that is one of the things I'm also working, Q and I are also working with a Hollywood producer, trying to have a reality series of doing just that. Taking many conspiracies and putting the ball over the goal line. You know, so many times we see a documentary, a conspiratorial documentary, and I, for one, am still on the couch and I'm screaming, but, you know, what about this? And you forgot this. And I just got done, and so did Q, of yelling at the TV screen. So that's something that's going to go down the road. But I wanted to talk about, let me get it back here. I want to give you a little teaser for next week. You know, you've probably heard legends about plane ships mysteriously disappearing in Bermuda Triangle, or as people call it, the Devil's Triangle. That's the area of the ocean between Florida, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda. But those legends, believe it or not, again, scientific fact, those legends don't even come close to the very real, very serious disappearances that have plagued Alaska for decades. There is a region of wilderness known by names like the Alaska-Bermuda Triangle, or Bermuda Triangle of Alaska, and the Alaska Triangle. But no matter what name.
Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy.
Hey, pal. I don't know what happened to.
Can you hear me?
I can, and somehow we lost John.
What?
If you could just give me a sec, we're just on the air. He was just talking about the Devil's Triangle, actually, and I'm not quite sure where John went. I don't know how this just happened. Please just give me one moment. I'm going to find John. Found John. John, can you hear me? I can't hear you, John. Okay. Just give me one moment. I'm going to do my best to fix this problem. Folks, I apologize. This never happens ever. So if you guys could just bear with me, I'm going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, hopefully we'll have them both on the show.
Cueball Carmichael back with us. So we're going to put Bigfoot off till next week or whenever. But thank you for listening, Nick. Thank you for letting me espouse the basis of what we're going to try, or I'm going to try and do in the Bigfoot community. So we're going to cover the Alaska Triangle. I gave you the intro. The border of the Alaskan Triangle stretches from Utagavik, formerly known as Barrow, on the state's north coast to Anchorage, and to Juneau across the southern coast, including vast areas of largely unexplored wilderness. And I think that's important. Sprawling forests, icy mountain peaks, desolate tundras are clearly not the safest places in the world, but of the hundreds of search and rescue missions conducted every year, state troopers rarely find a trace of bodies, dead or alive. Remember that as we pick Cueball's brain later. The Alaskan Triangle first received widespread. I talked about this with you, and this is one of the things that I remember. When a U.S. House Majority Leader, that's like the third, fourth in line to run the country if the president and the vice president go down. The leader, Hale-Boggs' airplane vanished somewhere between Anchorage and Juneau in 1972. The disappearance triggered one of the country's largest ever search and rescue operations involving over 40 military aircraft, 50 civilian planes, 39 days of searching, and 32,000 square miles of search. Yet, search revealed not one shred of evidence, no debris, no human remains, nothing. The silver lining of that incident was Congress passed a law mandating the installation of emergency locator transmitters. And that's funny. Aircraft crashes and disasters do have they usually create more in airline passenger airline travel. Before we get with Cueball, let me read this. That wasn't the only aircraft to be lost either. Back in 1950, a military craft, 44 passengers, I did not know this, had disappeared without a trace. A Cessna 340 carrying a pilot, 4 passengers in 1990 vanished, again, without a trace. Disappearances without a trace are strangely typical in cases in this region, and the cases aren't rare. That's what Cueball's going to tell us tonight. Since 1988, more than I can't believe I'm saying this, and I have these moments in our show. Since 1988, I'd like to be clear, more than 16,000 people have vanished in the Alaskan Triangle. Q told me this 2 weeks ago. I didn't believe it. Q, I apologize. I cannot believe that statistic. This contributes to the annual filing of roughly 4 missing person reports every 1,000 people in Alaska, more than twice the national average. So, folks, something huge is going on in this area of Alaska, far more than the Bermuda Triangle or the Triangle off the Sea of Japan. Joining us, thank God, to clue us in for this really interesting show I think we're going to have is Cueball Carmichael, the pilot of this crazy plane, and I mean that metaphorically, to talk to us about the Alaskan Triangle. Q, good evening.
How do 16,000 people go missing without even so much as finding a hair or a piece of a jacket or anything? No remains whatsoever of these people. How is that even possible?
Well, I think a skeptic, and I'm not being a skeptic here today, Q. I'm just trying to maybe like find another answer, or maybe tweak your energy and your knowledge of it. I mean, it is a huge swath of land in Alaska. We first have to recognize that. That's like saying, well, something in the Sahara Desert, but the Sahara Desert, you would find something on the sand. You're talking. I mean, I've talked to people that have been in the woods and the forest of British Columbia, Washington State, and parts of Alaska. I mean, they tell me that you can't see 10 feet in front of you. Les Stroud, the survivalist, will tell you that in this triangle area. I mean, you go 15 feet, you see past, if someone goes 15 in front of you, they're gone. So yes, I think that it's possible that almost like the Indian Ocean or the Atlantic or the Pacific Ocean is so vast, does it swallow up wreckage and bodies with the canopy of the forest? Sure, I think that's possible, but to not have a trace, 16,000 people, that right. To me, I don't know, that to me, speaks that my first inclination is, well, what else could it be? I mean, you must have, you must have theories on that.
Well, there's a great story about two guys that were hiking back in 2002, and they were hiking up a butte or a crest, and they were about 20 feet apart, and the guy in front completely disappeared. I mean, the guy behind him didn't take his eyes off him. He completely disappeared. And about 2 miles up the trail, he found him on the ground, clothing tattered, out of breath, and slightly disoriented, and couldn't figure out what happened to him. The guy doesn't remember, but apparently it was about 15 to 18 minutes before he found the guy. The guy just disappeared in front of him and was found 2 miles up the road. The only thing that I can think of, and this goes back to vortices, there has to be one of two things, in my opinion. There has to be a vortex or vortexes up there, or there has to be some type of alien abduction theory where there's some kind of agreement that people in that area can be taken, because I just don't look. I know it snows. I know there's bears. I know there's certain animals and rodents, but we're not talking about a few hundred or even a few thousand people disappearing. We're talking about 16,000 without a trace. We're talking about planes going out and searching for these people, and the planes disappearing.
Yeah, that's similar to the Bermuda Triangle.
Very similar.
Yeah. It's funny you said that about the vortexes, because, and again, I'm not trying comparison, but you have to, because it has the same modalities of planes and ships and people just vanishing. Is the one pilot that did manage to escape the Bermuda Triangle, and he talked about basically, he was in a circular enveloped tube that was resonating with a vibration. It was greenish color, and emerged, on his watch 10 minutes later, but on the radar time an hour and a half later. So I don't disagree with your vortexes, and that is not Q. Talk about this. When we talk about vortexes, this is something that Machu Kiko, the physicist and astrophysicists talk about, that there are disturbances, so to speak, and quite possible portals and somewhat black holes around the world, where they don't know quite exactly what it is. We remember the hunter in Oregon. It was last year, and he said he was in the woods, and he said, like, there was a doorway in front of him that was like the predator. It was like camouflaged with the forest, but it was like shimmering and it was moving. And he's like, this felt it was a portal. I don't think that's crazy talk, or when we don't know half of what's going on, and people telling us there might be 5 dimensions. Talk about that, please.
Well, we have seen in our study of ancient civilizations many of these spiral things that really have no explanation, and those things that almost look like a hypnotist spiral,
Great point. Great point.
Recorded back as far as 12,000 years, and they represent, and keep in mind, those people had a very limited frame of reference, but
Right.
they are referenced to a vortex or a spiral in space and time. And this goes back thousands of years. And if you think about it, look, we have to reasonably explain where all these people went. And even in bear attacks and animal attacks, there's threads of clothing, there's rib cages, there's skulls, there's things that people find. In these cases, there is nothing. I mean, these people vanished off the face of the earth completely. I mean, to me, there's really two basic or simple answers that the only ones that I can come up with that make any sense. There's a variety of vortexes there, or there's an abduction scenario there.
Yeah.
And that's all I can figure out logically, how 16,000 people disappear in 30 years without a trace. And we're talking planes and ships and groups of people. We're not talking about a person wandering out into the Alaskan wilderness who doesn't know how to go into the wilderness. These people are experienced veteran hunters that disappear. They're woodsmen that disappear. They're skilled bush pilots that disappear. They are master sailors that their ships disappear.
Yeah.
So what could possibly be going on to make any or all of this happen? To me, it's really a very simple formula. It's one or the other. It's a vortex or multiple vortexes. I realize this is a 250,000 square mile area, but Alaska is not very densely populated. So you have to take that into consideration. 250,000 square miles of the Northeast or the Midwest, there's millions and millions and millions of people. There'd be witnesses. But out there, the population is so sparse that there's not going to be witnesses to these things that happen. It's a logical explanation. So when there's no logical explanation, you have to grasp at the illogical.
Right.
It's the only thing left.
And you have dispelled all of the other answers. Whatever is left, no matter how crazy, is the truth. And that was a philosopher 3,000 years ago. And he's right.
And we all know that truth is stranger than fiction. So, in this case, the truth is people are disappearing like crazy.
Yeah.
And there's zero explanation for it. So it leaves us befuddled to the point where we don't like to, but we have to speculate on our show. We deal in facts. We find the truth, not their truth, but the truth. But in this case, the truth is escaping everybody.
Yeah.
So we have to go to speculation. Speculation says these people are disappearing one way or the other.
Right.
To me, look, we have a witness to a vortex disappearance. We have multiple witnesses to UFO activity in Alaska. I mean, there's massive UFO activity.
Yes.
Once again, you go to very sparse population, but a large amount of the people got not a lot of choices. It has to be one or the other to me. I mean, I just don't think that many people, that many groups of people, that many planes, that many ships could possibly disappear without a trace.
Right. All right, we're going to pick this right back up. We're going to go pay some bills. Please stay tuned. We're going to go to our sponsors. We'll be right back. TruthBusters, Thursday night. Thank you. Stay with us. And we're back, TruthBusters, our new Thursday edition, talking about the Alaskan Triangle. Again, our pilot, Cueball Carmichael, kind of really blowing my mind. And I've been studying this. I've heard about this for 20 years. Did a lot of research this week along with the intern and Cueball and Nick London, our producer. Just some, I don't know, breathtaking facts of 16,000 people in 30 years have disappeared. Q, let me ask you this, just to put the naysayers kind of into place as far as the disappearance of the congressman, Hale Boggs. He just didn't, they just didn't get up in a plane and go off. And there was a flight plan. They were following certain latitude and longitude, and then just disappeared. So it's not like, let me just start somewhere. No, they fall off the radar screen. They were on course, let's say 270 at such and such miles per hour, and left so long after their takeoff. An idiot like me could put a 200 mile radius on a map. I mean, can you delve more about this? I mean, this is not people just getting in a plane or a show. We're just going. I mean, these are people with recorded flight plans on a trajectory, falling off literally the face of the earth. Q?
Well, this is transponders, but they do follow a flight which gives a good search radius. And the pilot of this plane, I'd like to point out, was a 30-year veteran bush pilot in Alaska. He wasn't a young guy on his first 30 years experience of flying in weather and knowing when a front comes in and knowing where to fly and where the mountains are and how to fly by not just radar, but how to fly by visual sight. So this is an experienced guy. And when you have a search, I mean, this was at the time the most massive single search ever launched by military officials and law enforcement officials and civilian search people. It was the biggest search in the history at the time that this happened.
Yeah.
So
even bigger than JFK Jr.'s search, folks. I mean, go ahead.
It was, and it continued, and people to this day are still searching for that wreckage of that plane.
Right.
In 2020, you're talking 65, 70 years, 75 years later, they're still searching for that plane, and not one piece of debris has ever been found. That's what's mind-boggling to me.
Well, I wanted to read you, Q, not to aggravate you, but just, you get such a great way of kind of digesting things. Somebody wrote, a more grounded explanation is that the deceptively beautiful glaciers of Alaska have swallowed many of the missing people and planes. Although they may appear to be solid ice, the glaciers are actually honeycombed with hidden chambers, and those crevasses could be larger than a house, even an office building. Coupled with the falling snow of the northern climate, is it not unreasonable to think that in the Alaskan Triangle, vanishing into thin air really just means buried by nature? Just to remember to stay safe, if you do not venture into the Alaskan wilderness, you might not be a wayward traveler. What are your thoughts about that? I mean, does that explain some of the disappearances? But can the climate coupled with the geography account for 16,000 people vanishing into thin air? What say you?
No. I'll give you a couple thousand people who fell in a crevasse, who thought they were great outdoorsmen that maybe weren't so great. But if you look at the history of these people that have disappeared, there are too many people that are from Alaska that have spent their whole life there and vanished. And that, to me, tells a story. These people lived there, born there, raised there, disappeared there. It's not like it's just tourists, and it's 16,000. So let's give 5,000 to the weather and the fact that there is a spring and a summer and a fall and a winter in Alaska. There is a time when the snow does melt. There is a time when people can hike in and look for debris. There is a time when an aerial search could reveal debris of the planes that are missing, or the ships that are missing, or the people that are missing. But in these continued massive searches, not even a piece of clothing, a glove, a hat, a scarf, nothing, a wingtip, a wheel, an engine, nothing has been found.
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, go ahead.
For nothing, and 16,000 people. I'll give you a few thousand maybe didn't know what they were doing and got out, got lost. But you still have to explain the other 10 to 12,000 people to me. And I don't think anybody can. And yeah, it's a vast wilderness. But when you have a bush pilot that has 30 years experience and he has a specific flight plan from one place to it's easy to search the flight plan and find a piece of debris somewhere. Small planes crash. Small planes have a 10-to-1 glide ratio. To give you an example, a jet has a 1-to-1. For every foot it falls, it glides 1 foot. A small aircraft like a Cessna has a 10-to-1 glide ratio. For every 10 feet it goes, it only drops a foot. So if you're at 1,000 feet, you have a very good distance to bring that plane down and get it somewhere where it can be seen. I mean, I don't know. This was a massive, massive search. That befuddles me, but that's just the start of it. I mean, let's just go back to 88 and the 16,000 people, and we're not counting Hal Boggs and his crew in that. We're counting the 16,000 since 1988. With the advent of compasses, of phones, of tracking phones, of GPS systems that people carried with them before they had the GPS in their phone. None of this stuff is searchable or findable. Nobody's called for help and said, I need help. They've just disappeared.
Yeah, and again, the alien, like our Alien series, we stopped many times in our discussions and said, doesn't this all sound familiar? Isn't the same thread that keeps getting weaved in and out of the same story? And when I hear disappearing without a trace, modern technology can't find them, no wreckage. I mean, even an animal attack, you know this from being a police officer, an animal attack is going to leave blood, scattered clothes, a shoe. You're going to see a plain skid mark or a crease into the woods. That is a great. I want to compliment you. What a great point about you're 34,000 feet in the air in a Cessna, folks. You've got 10 minutes of gliding time to put it somewhere on a glacier or a clearing or the Hal Boggs pilot with 30 years of experience. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And again, you're right, Q. The animals can account for some things. Crevasses and glaciers and storm and the canopy of the forest. 16,000. It's not on us to prove. It's on the naysayers of these people that are just vanishing.
Sure, and look, if it was a couple thousand people, you'd be like, they just disappeared in the wilderness. Right. But there's theories that it's an aggressive. The Alaskan Inuit people call it a hukuska. There's theories of this that I don't buy. I don't think there's a massive population in Alaska that people and eating, burying them or whatever. I don't think it's all due to the magnetic fields. I don't think it's all due to bad pilots. I don't think it's all due to bad woodsmen. I think it's got to be due to something else. It's just too many people to, cops never believe in coincidences, right? When you have enough circumstantial evidence to say, hey, There's 16,000 people missing since 1988. It's like Dave Pilati's talking about the people that disappeared in the national park.
I was going to bring that up. Yes.
I mean, there's no serial killer that killed 16,000 people.
Q, you're breaking up a little bit. We'll wait for you. Okay, go ahead. Gotcha.
So,
well, Q,
whether it's the government abducting people to, I don't know, but there's something going on beyond the realm of our normal thinking, leading us to believe it's just people getting lost. It's just impossible. Not that many people, and not one trace of any of those people.
No.
I mean,
and
come on.
And Q, some people might roll their eyes, but you just made note of it because, great minds think alike. If I'm the president of the United States, if I am cabinet member of the Department of Interior, the Department of State, and 16,000 of my residents have gone missing, I'm gonna call for congressional hearings. I got a thing on my phone today, about 900 children go missing a day. I don't know if that's true, but if it's 10, if it's 5 every day, if I was a member of Congress, that would be at the top of my list. Not, is China going to try and maneuver us and overtake the South China Sea? Are we going to rename another post office? Who Joe Biden picked? Here's my question to you. And I mean this with all candor, joking, or my question to you is this: the fact that up to 900 children every day in America go missing, 16,000 people go missing in the Alaskan Triangle, and government doesn't do except to tawdry, put people on milk cartons. There's no congressional hearings. There's no widespread, panic. That the government is maybe complicit, or at least at the very least knowledgeable of what. Because I don't trust the government.
I think. Do something about it. The problem.
Okay.
The Secretary of the Interior is the person who should know, but they're not, because to acknowledge it means that you have to do something about it. What are they going to do? They're going to have to admit that there's something going on beyond the realm of normal possibilities. And the government, look, they're never going to admit there's aliens or UFOs. Archaeologists, scientists, anthropologists are never going to admit there's civilizations that are 50 and 60,000 years old, considering man walked upright for the last 10,000 years. They're never going to admit this, because then everything they've taught is wrong. Everything that the teachers taught was wrong. Every student is wrong. Every history book, every anthropology book, every zoological book, everything has to be changed now. And everybody in the past has to be wrong. It's never going to happen, because then the government has to admit what? They were wrong. And the government is never going, no matter what administration is in there, Democratic, Republican, anybody, none of those people are going to admit to this situation, because then they're obligated to confront it, deal with it, and explain it to the American people. Well, and we know that's just not the style.
No, but you would think that, Donald Trump has children. He has grandchildren. I know he acts like outrageous and says things that I wouldn't say, but, I mean, the one thing that I can't wrap my mind around. And it's been like this with all of our shows and prior to us going on the air. Just I cannot wrap my mind around letting that kind of carnage happen with children and especially, citizens of our country. But you're right. The minute you so eloquently spoke, the minute the government says we've got a problem, now it's, well, why didn't you do something in 72? Where were you in 88? It's a blah, blah, blah. What do you mean you've been keeping the alien knowledge from us in 1947? How the hell could you lie to us for, 50, 60 years? And, we see what Black Friday does with trying to get a $5 toaster. Can you imagine what Black Lives Matter type individuals would do if, the government's lying to you, or at the very least, not lying, but kind of obfuscating. Don't you agree? I mean, it's anarchy.
That's it. That's it in a nutshell. They're never going to admit to it.
Yeah. And it seems like, is this a money issue too? We acknowledge something. We acknowledge our buffoonery, which is what it is. You're telling me, folks, I'm trying to be calm. Chris asked me, Cueball asked me to be calm, and so I'm going to be calm. So what you're telling me, and I want to put the burr under your saddle. What you're telling me is that Cueball Carmichael is the congressman from North Carolina. This comes across your desk and you don't do anything? I mean, that's a monster. And this has been going on since the 60s, the 70s, and you don't do any. So all these Congress people, men and women, just, oh, well, I don't know. I can't wrap my mind around that.
How does the governor of Alaska not acknowledge this issue? How does that even happen?
Well, we need to get that person on the show.
Missing people.
Yeah, we need to get him on the show. I mean, at this point, or at least maybe our producer Nick could, or we could, somebody from our office can send an official letter saying, we had this show. We researched for a week. Our host has researched this for 25 years. Governor, this is incredulous. This is crazy. I didn't think this topic, Cueball, would bother me as much as it has, and it does, but it has, and I'm not feigning my incredulity. It sickens me, because to me, what government is to uphold the laws, uphold the Constitution, and try to do things that ensure our safety. And 16,000 people are disappearing. 900 kids maximum a day are disappearing. You ain't protecting us very well.
Look, go back to 1980. You've got 200,000 unsolved murders, and you've got 200,000 missing people from the planet Earth. Now, that's not even the 16,000 we're talking about.
Right.
So you think about that. There's 200,000 missing people. There's not that many places in a desert to bury them. No. Number one. No. Number two, you've got 200,000 unsolved murders. I mean, look, I understand police work is difficult, and sometimes there's really not a lot of clues to go on. But you know what happens is when there's a current murder, the murder from 8 months ago gets completely forgotten about, and they focus on this one before they get it done. When they have 1,000 missing people and another 1,000 go missing, who do they focus on? The most recent missing, or the 200,000 have been missing since 1980?
True.
I mean, look, something's going on. Nobody's murdered 200,000 people and hid their bodies successfully since 1980. It just hasn't happened. People are disappearing off the planet every single day without a trace, without family people who would never leave without talking to their children or their moms or their dads or their relatives or their friends, disappear on a walk off the face of the earth. I mean, look,
Yeah, you know, in our alien series, we've discussed this. How many thousands of abductees?
Not just in Alaska, but in every corner.
Yeah. Well, I think, I don't know if you heard me or not. We're doing this with Skype, folks. It's a little difficult, so always bear with us. But in our alien series, we talked about this.
Yes,
The abduction phenomenon is real. Harvard psychologist John Mack, Harvard psychologist, said the abduction phenomenon is real. Thousands of abductees say the same goddamn thing. These creatures, these terrestrials, these exoplanet visitors, they took me in a ship. They did experiments to me. They took sexual semen or ovaries, and they kept telling me we're creating another hybrid type race. You know, it says it in the Bible. It's backed up by abductees. The abduction phenomenon is real. So why are, you know, the government won't do anything? What's the answer? We've got the answer. In my opinion, we have the answer. It's really simple. A race from another solar system or dimension or universe has figured out the way to come here. Their species is dying. These are the abductors, not me, not Cueball. And they're creating a hybrid race. They're also creating a hybrid race to repopulate the planet when the next cataclysm comes. We have them every 12,000 years. Go to Graham Hancock. Going to have him on the show very soon. Going to blow your mind. Every 12,000 years. Some people say every 3,600 years. It's not Planet X. It's this asteroid debris field we go through. So the aliens are telling the abductors why people are missing. And again, the common thread again, Q, I want you to talk about this. The common thread, David Paulides, the former detective that has done the 411 book series. He's on YouTube. He's got books. Please go research him. He's a very credible individual. It's the same thing. These children are vanishing in front of the parents in like magic. People with heart conditions that can't walk 50 feet are found 7 miles from camp, like they ran there. Q, does David Paulides experience, his research, does this all fit in somehow with the Alaskan Triangle? What is your opinion?
Well, I think what his research has proven is that every national park in the country has had people completely disappear with no traces. Nothing left, nothing found.
Nothing.
It goes way on beyond that. And he's just taken a section of America, cross section, and he's investigated for 20 years and discovered all these missing people just from national parks. You throw in, Alaska, which not from a national park, just from the state. You throw on the other 200,000 missing people. And look, people are simply vanishing off the face of the earth without a trace. There's only one answer, and people can bury their head in the sand and play ostrich all they want. But the fact of the matter is, people are disappearing daily in this country. Literally, somebody turns their back and a person they know is gone forever.
Yeah.
Or they're found.
Right.
There was a great study about the Warner family in Massachusetts, who in 1969, several of the members of the family experienced it, and all have been through hypnotherapy, all have been regressed, all were laughed at, all were ostracized by the community. And finally, the governor of the state of Massachusetts declared that was a real of alien abduction in 1969. The governor declared it because he was tired of these people. There's 8 or 10 of them, 4 of them are in the Warner family, and they were abducted. Half of them didn't even know each other. And, it all happened on one night in September 1969. And literally hundreds of people reported it to the police department, and the police department at the time because they thought it was just a bunch of people drinking. In actuality, these people have went through regression hypnotherapy, and we're talking tens of thousands of people worldwide having the same experience under regression hypnotherapy, explaining the exact same thing that happened to them. The shift.
Some minor technical difficulties. Bear with us.
The type of people taking, and then they're put down 4 or 5 miles from where they were picked up, and 3 hours is gone. You know, it's that is not made up. That is research. When you have a Harvard professor who says the abduction phenomena is, how argue with that?
Yeah, you know, and I talk about, you know, you go to church on Sunday, you believe, you know, Mary was impregnated by an angel, magic. You believe, you know, Moses talked to a bush. Noah was warned about a man lived in the whale, and you have a Harvard psychologist telling you this is real, and you laugh at him. Oh, little green man. About cognitive dissonance, I would love to have a psychologist or psychiatrist on the show to discuss that, and, you know, how we break through someone's belief system with, you know, the truth. It's really quite frustrating. You know, the pilot that sees the green circular vortex in the cloud. What would a pilot lie for? I mean, there's no reason. He's not on the National Enquirer. He's not getting paid thousands of dollars. He's risking his life flying a plane, and he is relating you an experience. And again, it goes back to what we talked about, the smorgasbord, you know, belief system. I'm gonna, you know, you've got your little plate. I'm gonna believe this. I won't believe this. I'll take that belief. No, I'm gonna pass on that. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. Scientifically, religiously, spiritually, morally, with all of our citizenry going missing, that's bullshit. That's wrong, folks. You know, be real. Open up your mind, because you don't have the answer. If I don't have the answer, it's not up to me to prove that 16,000 people just vanished. You know, in under the canopy of you prove it. You prove that something extraordinary did not happen to these people. And it, oh my God, it just really, you know, I'm so glad that you're on board with John Mack from Harvard, because to me, that's just one of like the Mount Rushmore of everything, from aliens to disappearances to everything. It's starting to weave together. Don't you agree?
Well, John,
I'm listening.
well, you know, there's a great show on called with this on 40, but trying to get the information to the secretary. He finally ends up quitting. Chris Mellon, who from the Mellon family in Pittsburgh, is one of the highest ranking civilian, non-military Pentagon attaché and official, also quits, and he's now going around the world and looking into alien sightings, Tic Tac video, military pilots, civilians, and verified and taken pictures of. And these guys have taken their careers and their reputations and put them on the line to do a show to let people know that, hey, there's something going on here. There's something otherworldly. There's too many sightings. Alien craft, unidentified craft, aerial phenomena, and getting videos and pictures and all this information and all these other facts. It's undeniable. When these two guys go on and create a show, prove to the American people that, hey, we're not alone, guys. We're not alone.
Well said. Hey, I'm so glad that we get viewers, us, you name it. And Q, again, I not blowing sunshine up your dress. You did a great job today. A lot of great insights, and I know that I think it, and the viewers think it. Your contribution as the host of, as the pilot of the show is awesome, and I appreciate you as my partner. I just want to tell you that you did a great job today. I am Jon Stewart for Cueball Carmichael, our producer Nick London, Will Jones, the intern, all of our researchers and help that are on the ground in North Carolina, British Columbia, Canada, and Chicago. From the underground bunker, I am Jon Stewart. This is your Thursday new edition of TruthBusters. We hope you join us next Thursday night, same time, same place. And remember, folks, TruthBusters, it's not their truth. We're going to give you the truth. So long, everybody.